So in this video, I want to give you 23 tips and tricks to improve your copywriting. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, but we'll just jump straight into this. First point is research is crucial. So when you get a copywriting client, or even when you're looking for clients, you want to spend 70% of your time roughly on researching that audience to understand their pain points and like what they want. There's nothing more important than when you're doing copywriting than to understand the target audience you're writing to at the deepest level. So this is understanding their pain points, their desires, sometimes their demographics, their psychographics, and really getting to know the person you're writing to, because the way you communicate over the written word can be interpreted in many different ways depending on where the person is at and depending on the language that you use. It may be acceptable to you, but for somebody else reading your copy, it could be interpreted completely different, and then the message may be lost, that the actual crucial message. So if you want to make like copy that is impactful and powerful, spend a ton of time on research. Point 2, avoid huge walls of text. Write short spaced out lines to make the copy easy to read and engaging. So whenever I'm writing, I am always trying to write at a 5th grade reading level or less, or around that. So I don't like using big words. I like to try and make my copy look like it's easy to read. So if this is email marketing, for example, I like to space things out with bullet points, short paragraphs, punchy sentences. I get rid of all the fluff. I don't have massive chunks of text that make it an eyesore and like look like a challenge for somebody to read. Because even if somebody looks at your copy, they can decide then and there whether they want to read something or not. So we want to avoid that and almost make things fun to read. I remember reading a copywriting book once, and it said, try to think of your copywriting like a slippery slide. So once someone starts sliding down a slide, like a park or something, it's very rare they're just going to stop. And we want to apply this principle to our copywriting. So you want to think about trying to get someone to read one line, and then think about, well, how do I get them to go from that line to the next line, and so on until they're all the way down through your copy. Point 3, specificity matters. Be specific in addressing the audience's pain points rather than generalizing. So this comes back to the research part, but you want to be very specific in how you come across, right? There are instances where you can be broad, but for most cases when you're a copywriter, you want to be very specific so the audience, again, understands what you are, the message you're trying to come across with. Point 4, personalize your copy. Use personal elements like the reader's name and specific dates that resonate with them. So this is, again, these are all little tips that I've picked up. The more you can write your copy in a way that it feels like it can't have been sent to anybody else and it is very much directed and speaking to the person who is on the screen reading this, or in the physical thing, the better your copy will perform, rather than speaking generally to a wide audience. So for example, in email marketing, there are ways to personalize the copy, so you can address someone by their first name. You can add specific details that is like relevant to that person, and it really just feels like you have a proper connection with the person reading your copy. Next point is avoiding cliches. So stay away from using cliches or overused phrases that make your copy sound amateurish. Now this is like tongue-in-cheek, because sometimes I do use cliches because they're quite nice to get a point across, but generally I think they're overused, and when something becomes overused and saturated, it loses its impact. So as copywriters, we need to start thinking of ways to always be on the ball and on the lookout for new ways to get points across. This could be through puns, it could be through interesting stories, whatever. AI is a great tool for this as well. You can obviously use ChatGPT for things like this to try and explain points. Like if you have like a really complex thing that you want to break down to something really simple, you can obviously use ChatGPT to do this for you or help you with it. But in essence, I would just avoid cliches. Next point, again, is a really important one. Create urgency and scarcity. So justify the urgency and scarcity of your offer with a believable reason. So this is really important. You have to give people a reason to act. I'll give you a good example here, and it's an honest example, right? It's more of an urgency thing than a scarcity thing. So obviously I sell an online copywriting course, which is linked below. I don't have any scarcity around this other than the fact when I do deals on the course. So say, for example, the price increase. I did a price increase recently, and you could have got the copywriting course for the price it still was versus the price it was going up until, up until the date it was going up, right? Urgency is more like if something is limited in spaces or limited to a certain time, and scarcity is almost like you have a limited number of things. And this is just a way to get people to act, because if you don't give people a reason to take action, they won't take action. It's very unlikely. So this is what we use in copywriting. And it's very, very powerful. You can use it for good or bad. Like, I tend to obviously use it for good reasons, but I have seen it used in the past for like bad or negative reasons. And you see it all around in the world around you. But by the way, if you are enjoying this, please hit the like button. It does help the video spread to more people. And if you have any comments or if you've got any tips that I'm missing out, please drop them below as well. I'll just silence my phone. Okay, next point. So eliminate unnecessary questions. Don't ask obvious questions that your audience already knows the answer to. It can come across as insulting. So again, tongue-in-cheek one again, but you want to try and cut out all the fluff and unnecessary copy from your copy, right? You want to just be very specific, very direct, very straightforward. And if there are questions or statements in there that like don't add to the overall goal of your piece of copy, then maybe it's worth just getting rid of them. Say, for example, like this, obvious questions or questions your audience already knows the answer to. Sometimes it's relevant, but just pay attention to the questions you're asking and what actual copy is going in your work. Next thing, and this applies to email specifically, but use strong subject lines. So make subject lines intriguing, personal, and directly related to the content of the email. So I like to avoid clickbait, or if I use clickbait in a subject line, for example, I always make sure I pay it off in the first sentence or two in the email, so someone isn't being misled. Now, intriguing, curiosity-based headlines and subject lines are one of the best ways to create attention and get the click of an email. I like being really intriguing. Sometimes it works to be direct as well, but I also just like to mix it up and be really, really out there and just intriguing. Like, some of my best subject lines are things like "I need help" or like "hello" or "hey." Something that's like really conversational and will stick out in someone's email inbox. Next tip is avoid overuse of exclamation marks and emojis. So these can make your copy look unprofessional and too casual. Again, this is going to be different for everyone, but I just wanted to make like a list from my experience of what's worked. So I am not a big fan of the overuse of exclamation marks. I think it can come across a little bit needy, how your copy is perceived. And then emojis, I use them sparingly. Like, I use the, like ticks and the red X's and stuff, but I very rarely use all the heart emojis and the like love hearts in the eyes and stuff. I just think it makes my copy feel like childish. Like, sometimes it's useful to use, say on social media for captions, but other than that, in professional copy for a client, I just think it's unprofessional. But take away what you think of that. Next point is emphasize key points. So use formatting like bold text to emphasize important lines and guide the reader's attention. This kind of relates back to the slippery slide tip I gave earlier. So when you're writing your copy, I would write your copy, and then when you're going through and formatting things, bold sections, use capital letters, underline things, use italics to make certain parts of your copy stand out. And it also just makes the copy more balanced. So if you just have loads of text that's formatted well, but it's all, not bolded or not in italics or anything, it looks all the same. And again, it's a challenge to read. So I like breaking things up with bullet points, bold sections, bold words, just to make my copy look better and more appealing to read. Next tip is obviously you want to justify your claims with examples. So if you make a claim, back it up with specific examples or stories. So case studies and stories are some of your best marketing material. For example, like with my copywriting course, I have student success stories that I like to share because those are examples of the power of the course. So we've obviously got people like Razor, who obviously went through the course and got his first few clients, which is amazing. And there's been about 2 or 3 other students as well, which I think of off the top of my head, which I've got testimonials from, which I should really share more about, to be honest with you. I've been quite quiet about it. But it's no good me saying my course can help you get your first few 5-figure paying clients, and then I mean, I could say that, but it's way more powerful if I say that and then have proof to back it up. Like, here's the statement, or here's the claim, here's the proof that this claim is true and that I can help you do that. And that almost does the marketing for you. Then you want to understand your audience's tone. So tailor the tone of your copy to match the audience's expectation, whether it's tough love or more professional approach. This is going to vary from client to client or audience to audience. Some people will be more casual, some people will be more professional. You just have to know your audience's language and kind of just like hold a mirror up and talk like that. And speak in their language and their tone, because you using power words that they use is going to make your copy so much more impactful. Then we want a strong call to action. So your call to actions need to be clear, compelling, and they tie to the pain points discussed in your copy. So I'll use my copywriting course as an example. If you are struggling to get clients, for example, right, paid copywriting clients, the call to action for my piece of copy based on that could be the fact that I have methods inside my course that walk you through many different ways of how to land your first client, even as a beginner with no experience. That's kind of a clear and compelling, well, it's kind of a weak call to action, but you kind of like get my drift of where I'm going with things. It's nice to tie back the call to action with the copy that's in the email or in the copy, or that addresses the pain points, basically, because we're in business. The main thing in business you have to remember is that all we're doing is solving problems. We have a solution and we're solving a problem. That's all we're doing. Next tip is to use social proof. So testimonials and success stories are so good for building credibility. Like I just explained, they almost act as if like they are little selling machines for you. So when you're first starting out, it's like, how do you get a client without experience? And how do you get experience without client? It's like chicken and egg. But say, for example, you do some free work for a client and they give you some nice words. Start using that in your material to get more clients and prove to people that you can do what you say you can do, right? Super simple, but people overlook this a lot. Your main goal when you're doing copywriting should be to obviously write great copy, but it should be to get a case study off someone, because you can use that case study as your marketing material. And you get to a point where you have a bank of case studies or testimonials, and then you don't actually have to sell. The selling is done for you. You just, the results speak for themselves, basically. You're essentially saying, look, I've got this solution here. It's helped these people who are similar to you achieve this result. It can probably help you do the same. And then they just make the decision from there. That's really as simple as it is. Next tip is continuously improve through feedback. You want to get regular feedback from experienced copywriters to refine your skills and avoid common mistakes. So I used an example on a different channel when I was talking about YouTube and growing a YouTube channel. This is kind of like relevant too, about continuously improving through feedback. And it's called the Super Mario effect. So if you ever played Super Mario, you're going through all these levels, trying to reach the boss level, and there's going to be points where you're going to fall down holes and kill your character and have to restart the level. Every time that happens, you kind of realize through feedback what works and what doesn't. So then the next time you attempt that level, you know to avoid certain pitfalls, right? And what works and what doesn't. And it's the same that goes for copywriting. The more you do this, the more you refine your skills and the better you get at your craft, the better copywriter you'll become. And you can just continuously improve your craft through feedback, whether that is from clients, from copywriters who are a little bit further ahead than you, and even just through your own personal analysis. I do a lot of audits on my own stuff all the time. I look at like what's working through the data, what do I need to change, what do I need to test, what could I do more if it is working. Next tip, again, I said this before, write at a 5th grade reading level. Simplify your language so that even a 10-year-old can understand your copy. A great example of a person who does this so well, and whether you like him or not, is Donald Trump. Go and listen to any speech he gives, and he speaks at a grade reading level that is so amazing. It's why he won the election last time, I believe, and maybe why he's going to win this one coming up as well. Because not only is he, courageous and I feel he's got a lot to offer the country, but he also speaks at a level that people understand him at. He doesn't use technical jargon. He breaks things down really simply, which means he can address a bigger audience size in a very specific way that people understand. So you can apply it to your copywriting. Next tip is to speed up your writing process. Aim to write faster without compromising quality, enabling you to produce more content in less time. So the way I like to describe this is write drunk, edit sober. Now, a lot of people will try and write and edit as they go. So they'll write a sentence, they'll write the next sentence, and then they'll go back and they'll edit it. And it's just this mixed up process. I like to separate my writing and editing. So I will sit down to write some copy and I'm not even focused on editing. I'm just literally pouring my brain onto the page and just like basically just throwing up on a page, like for the better sense, just like blurting everything out. I don't even care if things make sense or what. It's just a rough skeleton for my copy. And then I'll walk away and I'll come back when I'm in a different state of mind and I will edit. So I'll edit sober. And then I'll go through the copy and start getting rid of things, adding things, changing things. And that is how I iron out my copy in a really methodized way. And I do that with everything. I think it's a really, really powerful way to do things. Challenge your time management. So compress your tasks, see how much you can do and accomplish in a day, like squeezing much like squeezing more into a seemingly full like trash can or a bin. So this is interesting. So a lot of people, when they're doing like copywriting, they won't set any stiff deadlines. So they'll sit and they'll work until they just get tired or burnt out. I personally like to set timers. I use a 33-minute timer. Don't ask why. I just got that tip years ago and I've just done it ever since. And I set a timer for 33 minutes. I'll start writing, and that's the only thing I'm focused on for 33 minutes. And then as soon as that timer alarm goes off, I walk away and leave it and let my subconscious mind go to work on the copy. It's a real powerful strategy. Again, there is some rare recordings from a famous copywriter called Eugene Schwartz, all about this method inside my course, which is really cool if you're interested in that sort of stuff. But he was an absolute legend of copywriting, like absolute legend. And I learned so much from him. Super old stuff, like old style copywriting, but like all the principles are all the same still today. Then we've got freelancing versus agency. So this is more about like deciding where you want to take your career as a copywriter. I personally have always been a sole freelance copywriter. I didn't really want to build an agency where I've got other copywriters underneath me. But if you have an agency, I guess you open yourself up to creating more income and being able to have, I wouldn't say more freedom, because I think running a business is a little bit different than doing things on your own. But it can be more, I mean, you could argue it's more lucrative, but it depends what you want. So I'm kind of saying like, as you grow your freelance copywriting business, you want to kind of decide whether you want to stay on your own or you want to grow it into a fully fledged business where you've got other copywriters doing work for you and you're essentially just vetting the work and doing most of the marketing to get new clients into your business. Practice consistently. The best way to improve as a copywriter is by writing regularly and learning from every piece you create. This is kind of related back to what we said earlier, but you want to always be honing your craft. So a lot of people will be asking me like, how should I split my time between outreach to clients and actually practicing copywriting? In the beginning, I think it's a fairly mixed, but like it's a fairly balanced approach. I probably would even do more outreach actually than practicing copy. But when you start getting clients, you are going to be practicing copy every day because you're going to be writing copy. And then if you actually love copywriting or you want to progress the skill even more, maybe you should set a time apart to actually actively learn about copywriting. So you're like, right, today I'm going to learn for half an hour on this topic. And over time, you'll have built up this massive bank of knowledge and you'll be way, way further ahead and compounding your learning as a copywriter. Next tip is referrals over outreach. So focus on delivering quality work so that referrals come naturally, reducing the need for constant outreach. So in the beginning as a copywriter, it is going to feel like you are pushing a boulder uphill theoretically. You're going to be doing a lot of outreach to get your first few clients. That's just the name of the game. It's kind of the same with any business you decide to go into. It's going to take upfront work in the beginning. It just does. But the more case studies you get and the more referrals you get from people, the less and less hard working cold outreach that you have to do because people start coming to you for copywriting work, right? So it's a really important point. Really, really important point. Next tip is that personality matters. Being easy and enjoyable to work with can be just as important as your writing skills and retaining clients. So I've said this before in many videos that people do, like, businesses are made of people, and people do business with people, with nice people. It's not essentially all about how good you are as a copywriter. Like, some people may hire you and keep you on because you have a great personality and because you are a good copywriter, but you're also a great person to hang around with, right? Because that could lift the vibe of everyone around you. It's not always about how good skilled you are as a copywriter, right? So think about that. Do you have a good personality? Are you easy to hang around with? Do you work well in a team, or do you work well better on your own? All these are all valid points to consider. And then next tip is saturation is a myth. So most people think that copywriting is going to become outdated with AI, and there's no opportunity anymore, it's too saturated. I think that's all bullshit. It's just an excuse for people to not get started. As there is more copywriters, there is more businesses being started, more brands being started, so there is the need all the time for copywriters. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this one. Check out the links in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.